Welcome, spicy ladies. What happens when the very person they laugh at becomes the one they cannot ignore? This is the story of the Sigma female, the one who refused to play the game on anyone else's terms. While the world mocked her for being different, she quietly built a strength that did not need to be announced. They laughed because they could not understand her choices. They laughed because they feared what they could not control. But what they did not see was that every step she took alone was preparing her to outlast them all. A Sigma female does not rush to prove herself to the crowd. She learns that silence can be sharper than noise, that resilience can be forged in solitude, and that clarity comes when distractions fade away. Where others needed approval to keep moving, she drew power from her own focus. And when storms came, she was not shaken because she had already weathered storms within herself. The truth is, it takes courage to be laughed at and not break. It takes courage to hold your ground when people call you cold, arrogant, or strange. That courage is what sets her apart. And so when the noise died down and the masks fell off, it was not the loudest voice that remained. It was her, the one they dismissed, the one they underestimated, the one who became the only one left standing. You are stronger than the doubts around you. Stand firm. Your time will come. Let's dive into it. The spicy ladies. The spicy. Number 1. They laughed at her refusal to bend, but it was her refusal that made her unbreakable. Think about it. In life, people will often tell you to adjust, to compromise, to go along with the flow even when the flow is clearly headed toward destruction. Most people bend under that kind of pressure because they want peace in the moment, or they want acceptance, or they simply do not want to be seen as different. But a Sigma female does not live her life that way. She understands that bending for the wrong reasons is the fastest way to break yourself. Take a look at the way trees respond to storms. A weak tree that is grown in shallow soil topples the moment strong winds blow. But a tree with deep roots does not bend into weakness. It stands its ground. The storm may rage, branches may snap, but the tree remains unshaken because its roots run deep. The Sigma female lives her life with that kind of depth. People laughed when she refused to play by rules that did not make sense. But that refusal is what gave her strength others could not imagine. In everyday life, this shows up in simple but powerful ways. Maybe at work when she refuses to cut corners just to make quick results her colleagues think she is difficult. Or when she chooses to walk away from relationships that demand, she becomes someone she is not. People gossip about how stubborn she is. But stubbornness is only weakness when it is rooted in fear. Her refusal is rooted in self-respect. And that is what makes it unbreakable. The very things others find laughable about her are the same things that later make them turn around in shock. When people who bent in every direction end up drained, broken, and resentful, she is still standing with her integrity intact. That is the quiet power of refusing to bend when bending means betraying yourself. So if you have ever been laughed at for standing your ground, remember this. Their laughter is temporary. Their judgment is short-sighted. What will last is the strength you built by refusing to compromise on who you truly are. And one day, the same people who mocked your refusal will see you standing tall while they are left searching for pieces of themselves. Right now, if you are still watching, I hope this video can help you. Your comments motivate me so much, so I can make more videos which you like. So hit that subscribe button and leave me a message. Let's continue. Number 2. They underestimated her ability to start over, forgetting that reinvention was her second nature. Most people fear starting again. They see it as failure, as proof that all their efforts were wasted. But for a Sigma female, starting over is not an ending. It is a reset, a chance to strip away what no longer serves her and rebuild with sharper vision. What others call loss, she calls transformation. Think about the way fire clears a forest. To the untrained eye, it looks like pure destruction. Trees fall, plants vanish, and the ground looks empty. But if you return months later, you will see fresh shoots breaking through the soil, stronger and healthier than before. That is what reinvention feels like for her. When life burns down what she has built, she does not sit in the ashes. She uses them as the ground for something even better. This ability shows up in everyday life in ways most people overlook. At work, when a project she poured her heart into fails, she does not waste years clinging to the memory of what could have been. She steps back, learns what went wrong, and designs something completely new. In relationships, when trust is broken, she does not lose herself begging for pieces of what was. She has the courage to walk away and create space for something healthier. To her, starting over is not about losing everything. It is about gaining clarity and the freedom to write a new story. People underestimate her because they assume she is attached to the past in the same way they are. They cannot imagine how someone can release comfort so easily, how she can walk away from the familiar without looking back. What they fail to understand is that her identity is not tied to what she has built. Her identity is tied to who she becomes every time she rebuilds. That is why reinvention is her second nature. She does not just survive change, she thrives in it. Where others see endings, she sees beginnings. Where others cling to what is broken, she opens her hands to what is possible. And this is why when everything around her falls apart, she is the one still standing, already building the next chapter of her story. Number 3, her strength was not loud. It was quiet precision. And precision outlasts chaos every time. In a world where people mistake noise for power, she mastered the art of staying composed. While others rushed to prove themselves with volume and drama, she sharpened her focus like a blade. She understood that true strength is not about being the loudest in the room, but about moving with clarity when everyone else is stumbling in confusion. Think of a surgeon in an operating room. There is no shouting, no wasted motion. Every movement is intentional, every decision calculated. The surgeon's calm hands decide whether life is saved. That is what her strength looks like in everyday life. When chaos swirls around her, she does not get pulled into the storm. She studies the situation, identifies the heart of the problem, and makes a move that cuts through the noise with surgical accuracy. Take the workplace as an example. Meetings filled with arguments and scattered ideas often leave people exhausted without real solutions. She listens quietly, cuts through the exaggerations, and offers one clear solution that silences the noise because it works. Or consider personal conflict. While others throw accusations and lose themselves in heated words, she steps back, speaks once, and makes her point with precision. Suddenly, the entire situation shifts, not because she overpowered anyone with volume, but because she struck exactly where truth could not be denied. Chaos feeds on reaction, on people losing their composure, on decisions made in haste. But precision feeds on patience and timing. That is why her strength lasts longer than the temporary energy of chaos. Noise may grab attention, but it rarely solves anything. Precision builds solutions that stand even after the noise has faded. This is what makes her unshakable. She does not waste energy trying to dominate through noise. She conserves it, directs it, and releases it at the exact moment it matters most. That is why when others burn out from chasing attention, she is still standing steady and in control. Her quiet strength may not always be celebrated in the moment, but in the end, it outlasts every distraction, every storm, and every voice that tried to drown her out. Precision always wins where chaos cannot. Number 4, they tried to measure her worth by standards she never agreed to. So when their world collapsed, she stood untouched. This is the reality of someone who refuses to let others decide what success should look like for her. Most people live their lives chasing rules they never wrote. They are told that worth comes from wealth, status, or constant approval, and they run themselves into exhaustion trying to keep up. The Sigma female does not play that game. She understands that if you let the world define you, you will also let it destroy you. When those definitions change, picture this in everyday life. At work, everyone scrambles for titles and recognition. They attach their identity to the role they hold or the applause they receive. But the moment layoffs come or the spotlight shifts, their confidence shatters because their worth was borrowed, not owned. She is different. She works with purpose, not for labels. So when the ground shakes, her foundation remains firm because it was never built on shifting sands. The same applies in relationships. Many people measure their value by how much attention or validation they get from others. They shrink when ignored or abandoned. But she does not allow her sense of self to be tied to someone else's approval. When others lose themselves trying to be loved, she remains whole. And when those relationships crumble, she is not left broken. Her strength lies in deciding her own standards. To her, success might be peace of mind, freedom of choice, or the ability to walk away from anything that costs her dignity. These are things that cannot be taken away no matter how chaotic the world becomes. That is why when their systems of measurement fail, when the rules they built collapse under pressure, she remains standing. She was never playing their game to begin with. Her worth was defined on her own terms, and that is why no collapse can shake it. So the lesson is clear. The world will always try to measure you with a ruler that was never meant for you. But if you have the courage to create your own scale, no storm can strip you of your value. You will stand untouched just like she did. Number 5, she was not competing for a crown. She was creating a kingdom within herself. That was why she endured. Most people exhaust themselves trying to grab recognition, fighting for a position that often has no lasting meaning. They run in circles, desperate for a crown that shines on the outside but leaves them empty inside. The Sigma female sees through this illusion. She knows that real power does not come from what sits on your head. It comes from what you build within yourself. Think about it this way. A crown can be taken away the moment the crowd changes its mind. A kingdom built inside, however, cannot be touched because it is not dependent on anyone else. Her kingdom is made up of discipline, resilience, wisdom, and inner peace. These are treasures no one can steal. When others fight tooth and nail to look important, she invests in becoming unshakable. You see this clearly in everyday life. At work, some people chase promotions only to feel lost once they get the title, because the crown they chased was never enough. She, on the other hand, grows her skills, deepens her knowledge, and strengthens her character. With or without the title, she holds authority because her foundation is solid. In relationships, others may fight to prove they are worthy of love. She does not play that game. She pours into her own growth. And that self-respect naturally draws the right people toward her. This is why she endures. When the crowns others fought for slip away. When the applause fades and the spotlights turn off, she remains steady. Her strength is not borrowed from the outside world. It comes from a kingdom that she has carefully built within. A place where her value cannot be questioned and her power cannot be removed. That is the secret of her endurance. She does not need a crown to be remembered. She becomes unforgettable because her reign is not over people but over herself. And in the end, that kind of kingdom lasts far longer than any crown ever could. Number 6, they thought she was strange for seeing through masks. Yet when everyone else was deceived, she already knew the truth. People often label what they do not understand as strange. They prefer comfort over clarity, even if that comfort comes from lies. But she was different. She did not take things at face value. She paid attention to details others ignored, the small cracks in words, the hesitation in actions, the energy that did not match the story being told. In everyday life, this gift can feel like a burden. At work, she might notice when a colleague pretends to be supportive, but secretly undermines others. Everyone else calls that colleague charming. Yet she senses the manipulation hiding underneath. In friendships, she can see when someone smiles to her face but carries envy behind their eyes. People say she is overthinking, but time proves she was right all along. The truth is most people want to believe masks because it is easier than facing reality. They want to trust the polished words, the practiced smiles, the carefully presented image. She, however, has the courage to see beyond it even when the truth is uncomfortable. That courage often makes her stand alone because not everyone wants to hear what she sees. But when the deception finally cracks, when the truth spills out for everyone to see, she is never shocked. She already knew. And in that moment, the same people who called her strange realized she was not strange at all. She was simply awake while they chose to stay asleep. This is why her insight is so powerful. It saves her from traps. It shields her from manipulation, and it keeps her one step ahead in a world where masks are the norm. What others mock today becomes the very wisdom they admire tomorrow. Number 7, they mocked her independence, but when dependency destroyed them, she remained whole. Many people confuse independence with loneliness, as if standing on your own is something to pity. They mock the woman who does not lean on others for every step, who does not panic when she is left to handle life on her own. But the truth is, independence is not about isolation. It is about strength, about knowing that even if everything around you collapses, you still have the ability to stand. Think of everyday situations. At work, some rely so heavily on team approval that they cannot make a single decision without being reassured. She, on the other hand, learns her craft deeply, trusts her judgment, and does not freeze when no one is there to guide her. In relationships, others may cling to partners out of fear of being alone. She loves deeply, but her identity is not tied to anyone else's presence. When things fall apart, she grieves, but she does not crumble. She rebuilds. Dependency feels safe until the thing or person you depend on disappears. That is when many people lose themselves because their sense of worth was borrowed, not built. She avoids that trap by grounding herself in her own abilities, values, and resilience. So, while others laughed at her independence, seeing it as stubbornness or coldness, they did not realize she was preparing herself for storms they could not survive. And when those storms came, their dependence left them broken. She, however, remained whole because her strength was never borrowed. It was always her own. Number 11. They tried to weaken her with doubt, but doubt only sharpened her clarity. Doubt is usually seen as poison. It creeps in and makes people second-guess themselves, abandon their goals, and shrink back into safety. That is exactly why others used it against her. They thought if they could plant enough seeds of uncertainty, she would begin to question her own path. What they did not realize is that she knew how to turn doubt into fuel. Instead of crumbling under it, she examined it, challenged it, and allowed it to refine her vision. Think about a jeweler working with a diamond. Before it shines, the stone is rough, clouded, and unremarkable. It takes pressure, cutting, and polishing to bring out its clarity. Doubt worked the same way in her life. When people questioned her abilities, she looked closer at her strengths. When they told her she could not succeed, she analyzed her approach, trimmed away what was unnecessary, and focused even harder on what truly mattered. The more they tried to break her with doubt, the sharper she became. In everyday life, this shows itself clearly. At work, when colleagues dismissed her ideas, she did not withdraw. She researched, refined her proposals, and returned with solutions no one could argue against. In relationships, when others made her feel she was not enough, she did not cling to their approval. Instead, she learned to see her own value with even greater clarity. Doubt can destroy those who depend on outside reassurance. But for her, it became a mirror reflecting not weakness, but areas where she could grow stronger. That is why instead of losing direction, she found it. The irony is powerful. What was meant to weaken her became the very thing that made her unshakable. Their doubt did not cloud her path. It cleaned the lens through which she saw it. And in the end, while they were left tangled in their own insecurities, she stood with a vision sharper than ever. Doubt had done its work, but it did not break her. It built her. Number 12. They laughed when she cut ties, not realizing she was cutting off poison that would later destroy them. People often confuse loyalty with blind endurance. They think staying connected, no matter the cost, is a sign of strength. But the Sigma female understands something deeper. Not every connection deserves to be kept. Some ties are not lifelines, but chains pulling you into places you do not belong. She knows that sometimes the bravest act is not holding on, but letting go. In everyday life, this is often misunderstood. When she walks away from friendships that drain her, people whisper that she is cold or unforgiving. They laugh when she chooses solitude over toxic company, believing she will regret it. But what they cannot see is the slow poison she avoided. The constant negativity, manipulation, and hidden envy that left unchecked would have eaten away at her peace. At work, this plays out too. While others cling to alliances with people who sabotage them behind closed doors, she chooses distance. At first, it seems like she is isolating herself, but as time passes, the hidden motives reveal themselves, and the very people who mocked her find themselves entangled in betrayal she foresaw. Cutting ties is not about cruelty. It is about self-preservation. It is about refusing to let poison linger in the bloodstream of your life. Most people keep sipping from the same cup because they fear being alone. She is not afraid of empty hands if it means a healthy heart and mind. So when their laughter echoed, she stayed silent. She knew time would tell the truth, and in the end it did. The very ties they clung to became the source of their downfall. While her courage to release what no longer served her kept her whole, she was not cutting off comfort. She was cutting off poison. And that is why she endured when they did not. In final words, what does it really mean to be the last one standing? It is not about outshining others or proving critics wrong. It is about building a strength that cannot be shaken, a clarity that cannot be clouded, and a spirit that cannot be bent by noise around you. The Sigma female shows us that being underestimated is not a weakness. It is fuel. Every laugh, every doubt, every dismissal only becomes another layer of endurance that prepares her for the moment when others fall away. The truth is, you do not need the world's approval to rise. You do not need a stage, applause, or validation to become unshakable. What you need is the courage to stay true when it feels easier to give in. You need the patience to endure seasons of emptiness, trusting that they are shaping you for something greater. And you need the discipline to walk your own path, even when it looks lonely at first. So let this be your encouragement. If people laugh at your silence, let them. If they question your independence, let them. If they mistake your focus for arrogance, let them. Because when the noise dies down and the crowd scatters, the only thing left standing is truth. And truth always belongs to those who had the courage to stand in it when no one else would. That is the quiet victory of the Sigma female. It is not just that she endured. It is that she transformed doubt into clarity, rejection into power, and loneliness into freedom. And in the end, when others are lost in the ruins of their own choices, she stands. Not because she fought to be seen, but because she chose never to betray herself. Stay true to yourself. To all the spicy ladies make life beautiful, see you in our next video. Take care.